More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Now we have a great guest coming on right now, a good friend of mine, Brian Sussman. He is the author of a great book that just recently came out. Since we're doing books, the reason we're doing books right now is because it's Christmas season now. Starting, on Friday is Black Friday, and everybody's going to be buying stuff. So here's a great book. We talked earlier about the Phil Gramm book, The Triumph of Economic Freedom. This is a book on what's called Climate Cult. That's the title of the book, Climate Cult, and the subtitle is Exposing and Defeating Their War on Life, Liberty, and Property. Brian, boy, is that true. Thanks so much for joining.
Steve, it's great to be with you. All those years I had my radio show in San Francisco, and you were a guest, and you are always our favorite guest. So it's great
that
to
was
be
so
on your
fun.
Show.
KSFO, right?
KSFO, and of course, I'm no stranger to WABC because for years I filled in for Mark Levin, and he's got a premier slot on this station.
So hold on, Brian. Hold on. I forgot about that. So I know that then a lot of our listeners are very familiar with you. It is great to hear your voice again. I thought you were deep into retirement, and here you're writing these best-selling books.
and here's what I love about New York. So back when I was a TV weatherman, so that's before I ever did talk radio, back when I was a TV weatherman, I was the main fill-in weatherman for about 8 years on CBS This Morning in New York. So I'd spend about 4 weeks a year in New York City. Yeah.
There's something else about you, I think, that a lot of our listeners don't know, that you're the lead singer of a rock and roll band.
It's true. And I know your love for rock music and especially classic music, so we hold that in common. And it is true, by the way. I am in a band to this day.
Brian, a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you remember, do you remember the group BTO?
Yes, of course.
So it turns out Randy Bachman is one of us. He's a free market conservative. And he is still doing concerts. He's, I think 76 years old. So and I went to his concert. He gave me front row seats to his concert that he had in DC. And his son, is a great guy too. And anyway, it was a fantastic concert. Because you know him. He's taking care of business.
He's taking care of business. Hey, you were just mentioning Elon Musk.
Yes.
And I talk about this in the book Climate Cult.
Yeah.
And
yes.
Here's my take. It's everyone has a right to their own electric vehicle or vehicle of any kind. It's your choice. Whatever you want to do is fine with me.
We have a hybrid, by the way.
And hybrids hybrids make a lot of sense, quite frankly.
They do. Yeah.
They really make a lot of sense. And of course, I know how you are when it comes to getting the biggest bang out of a buck. So it doesn't surprise me you're driving a hybrid.
Yep.
But here's the deal. Whatever you drive, I hope you enjoy your purchase. But in 2023, Tesla finally revealed its supply chain emissions for the prior year. It was 30.7 million tons of carbon dioxide. Now, that number probably doesn't mean a lot to most people, but I can tell you this: electric cars are much more emissions intensive to manufacture than gas vehicles or diesel vehicles. And the big reason is mining and refining and manufacturing the raw materials needed to make the batteries. So here's the deal.
Yeah.
So an entire Tesla chassis is a battery. It's made of thousands and thousands of small batteries, and manufacturing your average sedan with an internal combustion engine, it requires 6 metric tons of carbon dioxide, but to do an electric vehicle, it's 10 million metric tons of carbon dioxide. That's a big difference. So
in other words,
about it being green.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that people think they're doing the environment a great, service by buying an electric vehicle, but they may actually be emitting more pollutants into the air rather than less.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is just, these are one of those little tricky things that people just need to see clearly.
So that's, why, Brian, and you and I have talked about this over the years. How many years did I do your show? I think at least 15 years or so every Friday. Yeah. And I miss Fridays because I don't do that show with you anymore. But, one of the things that I think about and I want your reaction to this because you wrote the book on this. I think a lot of the climate stuff is just virtue signaling.
Oh, without question. And it's not only virtue signaling, but it can get a little deeper when you come into contact with guys like Mandami. I'm going to quote something from the Communist Party USA website. And this tells you where these people are on this issue of the environment. This is right from the website. As long as property gives one person the right to control and subordinate another, real freedom is not possible. So we say freedom requires abolishing class differences altogether. No more wage workers, no more shareholders, just people working in a society based on collective democrat control of resources. Then you drill down further, and so much of the Communist or the Democrat Socialist Party of America's agenda has to do with controlling the environment.
Right. And yet those things that they want to do to improve the environment, in many cases, not only will they make us poorer, they will actually do more harm to the environment than benefit. So tell me about two or three of the hoaxes in the climate change movement. You mentioned one of them. So what are some of the others?
Well, I think that the temperature record is probably the most glaring because we're told that the temperature is rising uncontrollably. But let me just give you an example from New York City. So in 1835, New York City's population was a bit more than 200,000. We've been taking the temperature in New York City since 1835. It's one of the oldest temperature records in America.
On record. Yep.
Now, in the meantime, we've gone from 200,000 people to millions of people. And in Central Park, the warming since the 1800s has been 4 degrees Fahrenheit. That is a lot of warming, but it all has to do with an urban heat environment. You get the big buildings, you've got all the power, et cetera. Right. Okay, now let's go away 55 miles to the West Point Military Academy. The grounds have changed minimally since that same period of time. Right. And the difference is glaring. West Point has only warmed 55 miles away from New York City. New York City's warmed over 4 degrees. West Point has only warmed 1/2 of a degree since 1835.
So the evidence is lately that the temperature of the planet has not really increased that much. By the way, there was a lead story in the USA Today, of all places, which is hardly a conservative rag, which was basically saying that agreeing something that you and I and so many others have been saying for the last 30 years, that way more people die from cold than heat.
Yes, absolutely. We need a warmer climate. If the warmer climate could spread throughout the reaches of, for example, Canada, you could have Canada expanding, and Canada could be even more profitable. Yes, true. It's absolutely true. We need warmth more than the cold.
Okay, so what are some of the other myths and of this climate cult?
I would say that one of the biggest features of the climate movement has to do with, if you can believe this or not, social justice. They're using the climate and climate models and all of these fake news items as an opportunity to change our behavior. For example, I'm going to the United Nations, and this is their big climate report from 2006, where they were actually talking about that, and they were trying to equate the environment with social justice. And they say this: social justice will only flourish if the environment and environmental preservation and a sustained development constitution are integral growth strategies for both now and the future. In other words, they're saying we need to have a pristine and sustainable environment in order to grow the world's economy. They also want to force redistribution of personal assets, finances, property carried out by the government. I'm thinking of Mandami when I think about that. Right. This is classic communism, but they try to put it in the context of the environment. And for a rational human being, there's just a big disconnect. I don't see how the two equate.
So this is a very, very important point you're making, Brian, and it's just another example that great minds think alike, because, one of the points that I've been making over the last 20 years is that all of these climate restrictions on air conditioning, on, getting rid of jobs in coal mining and this and that, the victims, the people who pay the price for this is are poor and middle income people. I don't think, that these rich people like Tom Steyer, who's going to run for governor of California, who's a billionaire, who's running around the country talking about climate change. If he has to pay a little bit more for goods and services, it doesn't matter to him. The people who are really being affected negatively are exactly the poor people that they say they want to lift up.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, all you have to do is go back to Vladimir Lenin, 1918, his first year as party chairman, while people were literally starving to death in his country. He was writing policy papers. One was called Decree on Land, declaring all forests and waters and mineral property to be that of the state. He also wrote another paper called Decree on Forests. He wanted nobody to go into the forest to do any hunting, period. This guy was a radical environmentalist, and he's at the very heart of this movement of which we're speaking.
Yeah. So we just got about a minute left, Brian, and we have to do this more often, come on the radio together as we used to. So let me just kind of ask you this on the way out. I think that the Brazilian climate change conference that had, I think, 60,000 people has come to an end. To his credit, Donald Trump didn't send any people at taxpayer expense to go to that. And by the way, to the extent I followed it at all they did was trash the United States. And hilariously, they kept talking about the real climate hero is China.
Which is absolutely a joke. But, when you think about this entire joke, which was this conference in Brazil, these people are living high on the hog for a couple of weeks. They're staying in the air-conditioned hotels. They're eating fine food. They're flying in on jets. But I guess they're the ones who are just a little better and more equal than the rest of us.
That is so true. They are such hypocrites. Well, the book is Climate Cult, and Brian, I never got my autographed copy, so I'm very angry at you right now, but I will forgive you. You've been a friend for so long, and let's do this again soon, can't we?
Steve, thank you for your great influence that you're having on the people of America and building up and lifting up and equipping those of us who are on the right side.
And now, are you still playing in your band?
Of course. We've got a gig tonight. I got to get going. I got to get ready.
To be in San Francisco. Okay, Brian, thanks for coming on. Folks, this is the More Money Show. When we come back, we're going to have as our guest the great John Catsimatidis, and it's my turn to question him rather than him questioning me as he does on his Catsimatidis Roundtable, which I know you all listen to. This is the More Money Show. We're having a wonderful, happy Saturday afternoon on the Saturday before Thanksgiving, and we will be right back.
Thanks for listening to More Money with Steve Moore. You can hear More Money with Steve Moore Saturday afternoons at 1. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?